now. Something in the water gonna take the chill away. While I'm wearing you down, almost to the middle, working all the right words to say. Now I don't have a clue about the ending, and I'm still sitting idle at the start. But I'm confident of the signal I've been sending as you rattle in hard, dropping your guard. Who gave me the right away? So if you say let's go, honey, I know we can make it. Whoa. But if your heart won't slow, baby, you know I can break it. Oh, and with the lights down low, you never say no, you're gonna take it. Whoa, and we can shake it loose as something dirty on a stereo.
I guess growing up, my dad would always be, he'd either be playing the banjo or he'd be playing the guitar in a great voice. So every morning when I wake up, I'd hear my dad playing the guitar. He'd be singing Johnny Cash or mainly Hank Williams. Hank Williams was a big, one of his big stars that he loved to play all the time. He sounded great on it. So with that, I would, I'd wake up every morning and I'd hear my dad playing, and this is the last thing I heard when I went to bed. He'd be playing. And he'd always have people coming over. So he'd have people coming over to the house, and they'd have their little acoustic jam sessions, and it was great. Every Friday or Saturday night, my dad would be playing with some friends, and I'd get to sit back and just absorb all this music and take it in. So it was our house was filled full of music every day. A little tidbit is my wife, her grandfather, was one of my dad's best friends. His name was Ellie, and he would come over and he'd play guitar with my dad, play guitar and banjo, and I didn't even know that was my wife's grandpa until we met when she was 16. So that was a little tidbit that I've been hanging out with her grandpa for 16 years almost, and I didn't even meet her. Musically, my dad would push the country really hard, the old country, the George Jones, like I said, Johnny Cash, the Hank Williams. So I wasn't allowed to listen to rock until mid-'80s, and my best friend Johnny, one day he brought a little tape over and he said, "Man, you gotta hear this, listen to this." And it was weird. It was Huey Lewis, and I'm a huge Huey Lewis fan now, and maybe it's because of the vocals and the harmonies and the catchiness and the choruses. But that was my stepping stone. Huey Lewis was my little stepping stone into music, and then it branched off to Duran Duran, and then kind of poppy. So it stayed poppy for quite a while, and it never really developed any further until I started hanging out with Mike Lane or John Massoya, which I met those guys when I think I was 16 or 17. We were walking bean fields and pulling beans, and I remember Mike saying, "Man, I know a singer in my band. I want a singer that sounds just like Bon Jovi." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, man. That'd be cool to have something like that." But we would, so they had their band Purgatory, and Johnny, my friend, and I, we roadied for them. I think when we started 17, we roadied for them until, for 4 or 5 years. And that was my way to get into the bar scene, to learn from these guys, and sit back and watch and learn what they're doing, and think about maybe I could do something a little different the way they're doing it. Or Gary Wolfer would do his warm-ups, and I'd just sit there and watch him do his warm-ups, and that's how I still do my warm-ups today. I keep continually listening to these guys, and I would go home, I'd have a tape recorder, and I'd push play, and I'd start recording myself singing songs, and I never really thought I had a voice, never really knew I had a voice, but then I started thinking, I think I can do this. I think I might be able to try this someday. And then I got up the nerve and I asked the guys if I could sing Modern Day Cowboy. And first time I've ever been in front of anybody, singing in front of anybody. And I got up and sang at the bar in Banner. I forgot the name of it. It was Banner, the Banner Bar in Banner. But I got up and sang, and Ryan Rose was in the audience. I didn't know, had no idea. And Ryan called Jeffrey Logsdon the next day because they were looking for a singer for their band Silent Tiger. And at that point, I had no idea what I was doing. Everything was new, and but I said, okay, I'll audition, and I went over and I walk into this small little room, and it's just filled full of smoke, and all these guys with the big hair, and but the nicest guys in the world, but they were trying to be, I don't know if they were trying to be a little rugged on me, just testing me out. But we played a song, we played a few songs, and it went from there. You could feel the brothership, the brotherhood was just building from there, and then we started gigging after that, shortly after that. I think my first show was in Canton at the Suburban, I think. I know Suburban had burned down, I believe, twice, I believe. Mm-hmm. But I remember I was so nervous the first show because, again, I've never really played before anybody, and my dad was there. He would never heard me sing. My dad never heard me sing. And that was a big deal for me. But we did it. We did really well, and it went off really well, and it was like somebody turned a switch when I went on stage. So the first show was Silent Tiger again. It was my first performance. I was nervous, throwing up backstage. Jeffrey Logsdon comes out and he gives me some encouragement that truly helps and truly helps me before every show. I was to a point where you almost have to flip a switch and become somebody you're not, and that's what I did, and that's what I try to do every show. Bring that person or channel that person that you think everybody wants to see. And that's kind of, I think, what I become, or maybe what I'm meant to be. I don't know which one is. Yeah, it comes first. But yeah, so we toured around Central Illinois in Silent Tiger with Chuck Brierton, Bobby Evans, and Pat Bogner. Great, wonderful guys. Danny Siegel always ran our sound, did a great job. For 4 or 5 years, and then I got a different job, and we all know how that goes. Sometimes you just have to step away, and you have to do the dad thing, and so I was away from music for, gosh, a good 2 years, I think, and then we started a little not original band, but it was called Revolution X. So it was a Queensryche tribute band that with Jeffrey Logsdon again and Chuck Brierton, and we'd never really made it out of the basement, but it was pretty amazing if anybody ever came to a rehearsal. But it was fun to get my feet back going and get my pipes in order again. So I guess after that it went to a band called Lithium Sunset, and that was with Justin Robbins, Dave Ward, and Neil Dennis was in that, and it was good. It was a fun little band. We did a lot of Cheap Trick and the Beatles and that type of stuff, and that was a good time. Good guys. I've been blessed over the years to be able to play with some really, really wonderful musicians, and I can't say enough how much I've learned and how grateful I am. So, but that lasted a few years. Then it eventually went into a band called Yellow Dye Number 5, and that's where I finally got to be in a band with my brother-in-law Shandel. So, which it's been great playing with him. He's a fun drummer. He's a great guy, and he can really get the gigs. He's a good at really booking the gigs. And the premise of that band, which Eric Barley was in that, Art Ertmode was in that for a while, then John Massoya, and Vinny Capello. Vinny Capello is, He's probably one of the funnest guitar players I've ever played with, and one of the funnest people I've ever played with. By the way, my wife would say funnest is not a word, but I disagree. Funnest is a word, and I enjoy using it. So, but it was a very, very fun band. Vinny Capello did some things that we can only speak of off camera. So it was wonderful. So that band, we would play games in between sets. So we'd get the crowd, we'd get them up, we would interact with the crowd by spinning a wheel, and whatever it would land on, at that point we would play the game that the wheel lands on. And the band members would play either Twister or we'd play Ring Toss, and we finally had to get to a point where we got rid of it because it wasn't just ring toss, it was a different type of ring toss, and it went a little too far. And so we finally got rid of the games, and but the band was still a really good time. But that band bled into Bubblegum Jack. So Bubblegum Jack was 17, 18, almost 20 years. So that was a great band, good run. Great venues. We played some really, really great venues. That was a bunch of people. Jeffrey Logston, Jeff Brokamp, Brett Johnson, Shandell Tassert, and then Colt Caparoon came into that. And Ryan Rose was in that with us also. And so a bunch of players that we did. We did for the first life of it was with Brett Johnson and Jeff Brokamp, that went into Ryan and Colt. And after that, we would do reunion shows where everybody get on stage, and which was a fun time. You know, it was a really fun time. But that was some of the best experiences, I would say, for me, was in that band. At this point, it was a really great time, and that's where I met Gary Richrath. I didn't realize who he was, and Ryan Rose was in the band, and Gary comes into a bar cruising. Ryan Rose is hitting me. I have no idea who the guy is, and he's like, "You know who that is?" And even though he said his name, I still had no idea at that point who he was, and what a huge idol for Ryan. I mean, it was a really big deal for him, and it was later on it was a huge deal for me, because at that point, that's when Gary, he asked me to sing in his band that he was putting together. And I can remember one of the best points of my life is coming over to his house, seeing him sit in a chair, and playing one of my original tunes. Playing that and giving me suggestions on what he wants to put in it, and that leads into the whole original portion that I was able to do. The best thing is when we met Gary Richrath, and again we went over to his house. I went over to his house. Imagine walking into a man's house and you see gold records just plastered on his walls, and it's actually his mom's house, I think it was. So his mom had all these proud moments for Gary plastered on the wall, and you walk in and you hear Gary playing your song. So Gary was playing One More Day, and it was such an honor to sit down. I was so nervous because he wanted me to sing it with him and to get a feel for it and a vibe for it, and so we did. And eventually we talked Gary into going into the studio, Colt Studio, and he put down the tracks. So Gary did get some guitar tracks and guitar work on it, and it's the last thing he ever recorded. So it's the last thing that Gary ever recorded on, which that's a pretty proud moment for us. So. So at some point in the whole musical venture, you get to a point where you love playing covers, it's fun, but you're not leaving anything that anybody can, any kind of legacy or any type of, anything that your children can go back and really appreciate. So that's what really got me in thinking that I need to do something. I need to put something down. I need to get some type of original music going. And the first way I did it, I traveled to Istanbul and for work. On the way back, it's a 9-hour flight, so I started putting a song together in my head. And I had the lyrics, I had the melody in my head. I needed somebody to help me with getting it on paper. And I actually went to Brian's house, Brian Dennison, and I sung it to him, told him how I heard things, and we recorded it. And after we got that rough recording, a really, really good friend of mine, Denny Smith, who lives in Nashville, who's, in my opinion, one of the best songwriters of my generation. He's an incredible songwriter. So I sent it to Denny, and he liked it, and he sent it back to me, and he put some lipstick on it, and a lot of bells and whistles, and he made it sound incredible. So at that point I had one song. I had one song, and I told Denny, I said, man, I would love to do some music with you. I'd love if we could do something together. And he said, I've got a ton of songs that I don't do anything with. He said, I'm going to start sending you songs. And the next day when I checked my computer, actually it might have been that night, he just kept hearing it ding, 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 ding. And then he sent me so many songs, just 10, 12, 13, 14 songs. They were great songs. Every one of them were great songs. But I wanted to pick a few for an EP, and the one we led with was Dirty on the Stereo, which was just I listened to that 15 or 20 times that night, and I think I remember telling Denny, you got anything? I love the Killers, man. You got anything that's kind of like the Killers vibe that we could throw out there? And he threw Dirty the Stereo at me, and I love the tune. It's one of my favorite tunes. And check out the video, dirtyonthestereo.com. After that, we put the CD out, put a video out. The video was pretty, it was pretty cool. It was a little bit risque, and I'm a huge Dexter fan, the show Dexter, and I told the director Dave Paul, who's did Seven Dust videos, and I want kind of a risque video going. That's it's gonna be, you're not gonna expect that from me. You're not gonna expect the serial killer to jump out at you at the end, and that's what we put together, and we did pretty well on it. It was really strange, and it was out of my wheelhouse to do some of the things we did, but it was a fun experience. So check it out. It's really good. So the full-length album, Absolution, we still had quite a few songs left over that Denny had said he would let me record with him, and we went to Nashville. So John Massoya and I get in the car, and we go to Nashville, and Josh Ketchmark, he's a great guy, good songwriter. He actually wrote some of the songs on the album with Denny also. We go to his studio, and it's really, by the way, John had really bad fall, and I was hoping he was okay, but he had a really bad fall. It was real icy that day. Just a little tidbit also, but he played great. He did wonderful on his fretless bass that day. But we went and we finished the album. So we finished we took the 5 songs off the EP, and we took the remaining songs that we had, and we did a full-length album. Some of the players that were on that album, the bass player from Sugarland played on it, but it was mainly the same people that we've been utilizing over the years to help us out, and it turned out great. I mean, those guys did a great job recording it and mixing it and producing it, and we were just really proud of what the final mix was. So that's out to iTunes, by the way, Absolution. After that, again, we put the EP out, the 5-song EP, and at that point, Gary had asked me to play in his band with him, and it was myself, Tim Flyers, Wes, Ryan Rose, George, and we were rehearsing, and we rehearsed once or twice a week, and the band sounded just incredible. It was a really, really good moment. I mean, before Gary passed, we were set. We had everything in the works. We were supposed to go on tour that summer with Styx, and I think the rest are called, but it was another one of the 70s bands. But that was I guess that's our biggest moment of almost getting to the big stage. We were close, we were stepping on the stairs, but we never really quite made it there. But the moment itself, just being in a room with Gary Richrath and playing his songs that he wrote, and hearing the stories of what his songs were about, how they wrote the songs, and riding the storm out. He said him and Kevin were stuck in Colorado in a hotel room. There was a huge storm, and Kevin went out the door somewhere, and he's been drinking, and he couldn't find Kevin, and so they were telling a big story about how they wrote the song and how he wrote the song. It was really cool. After that, Gary passed, and it was we actually got to meet REO at Gary's visitation. It was really nice guys. But it was a sad. We were pretty sad and devastated for that for a while. After that point, I actually moved to Quincy for 3 years. Pretty much out of the music scene, except I stepped in for a couple bands. A band called Elevens, and great players in Quincy. Really, really good players. Josh and Leanne, and everybody was really good in that band. It was fun. It was fun just to get my feet wet, I guess, and try to step back into music but it's never the same, because if you live in Central Illinois, this is a family. I mean, this is an area like I've never seen in my whole life. I mean, I've traveled far, and I've never seen a music scene like we have here, with people who love each other so much and appreciate each other and appreciate the music. It's a good scene, and since you're doing this, Kenny, this is a good thing, man. It really brings to light what we have here that everybody needs to appreciate. Bands are brotherhoods, and if you've never been able to experience that type of a relationship with people, it's a sad thing, because it's something you'll never forget, and you would die for these guys any day. So Mike Lane, I've always wanted to be in a band with Mike Lane. Mike Lane and I have been friends again, like I said, for 30, 40. I'm 52 now, so I've known him almost all my life. And we did a little project with him and Corey Noun, and with Kyle. We called Kyle Kitten. Great kid. But we had a band called My Sleeveless Heart, and we played for a little while, played some shows. It was a good time. It was kind of a transition time where right before Mike went to Florida and did his gig in Florida, we did that, and it was good for all of us. Some bands you'll find are just, you have fun, but it feels like a transition or a stepping stone to other plateaus, and this for me was one of those things, and I think it was for everybody else. Everybody went to a different part in their life, and but at that same point, I started something new that I'd never did before, and it was community theater. So I've never did any community theater. I had somebody approach me about auditioning for the part of Stacy Jacks for Peoria Players Theater, and I thought, I don't know if I can do this. I've never acted before. I've never danced before. Oh my gosh, I never danced, and you could tell. So we went into the audition room, which was, and they had a band set up in there. So in my head, I'm putting rock star on. I'm walking in with sunglasses. I'm gonna be the guy who's gonna, everybody's gonna notice you when you walk in the room. And doing that, I walked in, I sang my songs, and I got the job. I got the gig. And amazing people I worked with at Peoria Players Theater. John Massoya was in that. He was in the band. The guys were great. It was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever did when you get up there and you forget your lines. If you get to a point where you forget your lines, you think it's taking forever, and it's only been like maybe 30 seconds. But luckily I had some professional people working with me that, thank you, Bree. She helped me out, and she cued me in, and got me back on track. And I swore I'd never go on and do another show, but we did another one the following night. So it was fun, and I'm so blessed to be a part of it. We were best in Peoria for that theater review that year. It was a really big moment in my life. Later on, I went on and did two more. I did Elf and also Wizard of Oz with my daughter, which was awesome. My daughter Haley did it with me, which was a huge moment to have one of your kids doing something like that with you. It was really, really cool. So hopefully, now that the pandemic's over, we can get back to some theater and audition for some new parts and get my foot back in the door. So I'm a true believer that life presents things to you that you need at that point in your life, whether you're going through different struggles or, the pandemic or something's going on in your life that it needs to present something to you. And that's when Revel and Red came to me at this point. Gary Horry, Pete Ramsey, Josh Thompson, and George Herbst, and Mr. Brian Carroll. So life presented those guys to me at this point, and I think it's the beginning of the end for me. I mean, this is it. I mean, there's not another band I want to be in. I want this to be it. I mean, it's not only great cover music with musicians with over 200 years combined worth of playing experience. We're doing a little bit of writing. We're dabbling into that, so it's gonna be a good time, no matter how long it lasts. It's been wonderful. The crowds have been very responsive, and the guys they're great guys, very caring, they want to perform their best shows, and they want to do it with each other. And again, whether it's my last band, if it is, it'll be a great one to go out on. So it's like John Elway walking away after he wins the Super Bowl. So it'll be one of those kind of bands for me, and it is right now. So Revel and Red's been playing out for a year and a half. We started during the pandemic, played through the pandemic, built up a fan base, I think, because of that. By the way, we've all got our shots. We've all been vaccinated, or we've had COVID. So it's safe to come and see us, or maybe even hug us if you feel you want to. You can. Not George, he doesn't like hugs, so I like hugs. Anyways, come out and see us. It's a great band. You're going to enjoy it. It's a fun time. That's all I've got, I guess, on the band. By the way, the band was just the band was just recognized as Best Band in Peoria for 2021, so we're pretty excited and we're happy to have that honor. And we did have the Pink Wigs, where we did something for Susan G. Komen, and we helped raise $86,000 for cancer research, which is pretty incredible. And we try to do as many things we can to help people, and that's the other great thing about this band is sure we all like making money, but we don't care about making money so much. We're doing it for fun. We're doing it for people we can help. Pick out 2 or 3 charities during the year if we can. We're doing a St. Jude show coming up at Pekin Palooza. So whatever we can do to help out our communities and help our brothers and sisters, we're on board. So. So some local legends to me, and I know I've watched all your episodes, Kenny, and everybody say they're going to forget people. I know they're going to forget people, but you know what? I brought some paper with me, so I'm going to try to name everybody that I can think of, or at least get close. At least the people that I admire, the people that I've learned from, the people that I love, and the people who are just amazing at their arts. Jeffrey Logston. You're my boy, Jeffrey. I love you, man. Mr. Ryan Rose. Mike Lane. Mike Lane has been really big influence with me. And again, back to Ryan. Ryan, I couldn't have been here without you, man. So I appreciate it. Mr. Denny Smith. Again, I know I've talked about how much I think he's the best songwriter on the planet Earth. But he's a good guy. He's a great friend, and I appreciate everything he's did. John Masoya. Brian Carroll, Josh Thompson, Pete Ramsey, Gary Horry, George Harps. We went through any guys that were in a band with me, Chuck Brierton, Pat Bogner. I love you guys so much, and I appreciate it. And Mitch, you're my guy, man. I guess one thing that I don't see that I was hoping when you get in the music scene, you leave imprints, and you're always hoping that you see new bands coming in, and I haven't seen a ton of new young music, but some of the new things that's encouraging is John's boy Brock has been amazing. He's an amazing drummer. Ryan's boy Parker, or I like to call him Rizzo. I think it looks like Anthony Rizzo. So great kid, great new bands, which is that's something that you hope that when you're up there doing cover music, you hope that they're putting into their brain that this is the way things should be. This is what you need to carry on for us, because we're getting to a point where we can't. We're not going to last forever, so somebody has to carry the torch, and we're hoping that somebody picks it up. And these bands are doing it. Kiana's band. I always say your name wrong, and I'm so sorry. I've said it a million times, but it's your band is great. The Backseat Radio, they're doing great. So all the younger bands that are out there, it's encouraging to see that they're carrying on the Central Illinois torch of musicianship. And if I could say anything, just don't forget that brotherhood or sisterhood that we have here, because it's very special, that you're not going to find. I haven't found it anywhere, so it's here and it's special. Before I forget, I'd like to thank my wife for putting up with tons of crap over the years. It's not hard. Steve Perry wrote it best. It's not easy loving music, man. So a couple other new bands that I really appreciate and love right now. I love the Truth Council, John. Your band's awesome. I love the depth of the music. It's really full. It reminds me of Promised Land, which was mind-changing for me when the Promised Land album came out, and it reminds me of that. Little bells and whistles you put in the songs. It's really cool, man. So I'm really proud of you. Joey Joy's another one. Joy Prater, her and Jill are really big in this area, and we're really proud to see them carrying the torch for us also. I guess some of the influences that I had more or less growing up right now, I'm a huge, I don't know how I passed this up for so many years, but I'm a huge Sam Cooke fan. I never realized how much that I love this guy, and he's amazing. And if you go back and listen to some Steve Perry, and then you listen to Sam Cooke, you know exactly where Steve was pulling his notes from, because he was amazing. So I guess that's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Many tears, too many walls. It's not too late, I'll take the fall. Release your anger, embrace your fear. Everyone has a dark side here. Come a little closer, don't be shy. Gonna make you mine tonight. Discover me, just give in. Let me be your sweetest sin. I'm not asking you to change. Days they just can't stay the same. So you feel like there's no room inside to love me anymore. I can turn your eyes away. If it's easy to run, then fight. Things worth fighting for. I know reason not to stay. Baby, all I've gotta say is give me one more day. Right now, something in the water gonna take the chill away. While I'm wearing you down, almost to the middle, working all the right words to say. Now I don't have a clue about the ending, and I'm still sitting idle at the start. But I'm confident of the signal I've been sending as you rattle in hard, dropping your guard. Who giving me the right away? So if you say let's go, honey, I know we can make it. Whoa. But if your heart won't slow, baby, you know I can break it. And with the lights down low, you never say no, you're gonna take it. Whoa. And we can shake it loose, there's something dirty on the stereo. I'm pinned, tied into the motion and the way you wear your skin. I'm in, given to the notion that there's no way back again. You're in this record, song suspense. So if you say let's go, honey, I know we can make it. Whoa. But if your heart won't slow, baby, you know I can break it. And with the lights down low, you never say no, you're gonna take it. down. Cool to get ruined. Everybody likes to play.